This is the story of a philosopher who used to walk backwards in the streets and enter theaters at the end of a performance, all to challenge societal norms. His name was Diogenes the Cynic, or Diogenes of Sinope. Despite his unique way of living, he embraced a savage lifestyle that no one would follow. But at some point, everyone became jealous of his freedom. Diogenes used to urinate in public, and sometimes even on people, who would throw bones at him because of his dog-like lifestyle. Anyways, his life philosophy was to convey a message to the world, which we'll be discussing in this video, along with some of his truly savage life moments. But first, what led the man to live like a beggar in the streets? Diogenes was a prominent ancient Greek philosopher, born in Sinope, around 412 BC. Initially, he came from a wealthy family and lived a life of privilege. His father, Hesiasius, was involved in the production and management of currency in Sinope. However, both Diogenes and his father became embroiled in a scandal involving the debasement of currency, leading to their disgrace and eventual banishment from the city. This downfall became a turning point in Diogenes' life. After his exile, Diogenes moved to Athens, where he adopted the Cynic philosophy, emphasizing virtue, self-sufficiency, and living in accordance with nature. He rejected conventional housing and possessions, choosing to live in a large ceramic jar in the marketplace. Along with some followers, Diogenes lived as beggars, dressed in rough blankets, slept under porticos, and performed acts that many would deem shameful. On one occasion, he was caught pleasuring himself in public, and when asked why he was doing it there, he simply replied, "If only it were so easy to soothe hunger by rubbing an empty belly." Diogenes was free from the tensions of the world, which brings us to the next chapter of this video. In a rich man's house, there is no place to spit but his face. Diogenes lived a life of a king, at least in his mind. He believed that the more we have, the more we desire, and once this desire becomes impossible to fulfill, we are nothing but slaves, trapped in our own unhappiness. Once, when he was captured by pirates and sold as a slave in the marketplace, he shouted, "Sell me to this man. He needs a master." Instead of relying on rulers to end poverty, Diogenes preached acceptance of poverty as a means to freedom. He believed that by accepting poverty, we would be free from the grip of corrupt rulers, and that true happiness lies in being content with what we have. Diogenes, a beggar, believed that if you already had something to eat for dinner, there was nothing to worry about. Wanting more would only lead to unease. The reason he and his father were banished was because Diogenes disturbed the coinage system, believing that material possessions would eventually destroy everything. He saw money as a tool that made people greedy and enslaved. Diogenes proved his point by living in a ceramic jar and using a wooden bowl, which he threw away after seeing a child drinking water with his hands. He was against both luxury and even basic necessities. Diogenes lived a life like a dog, but considered himself a godlike man. He once said, "It is the privilege of the gods to want nothing, and of godlike men to want little." Once, Alexander the Great visited Diogenes and found him resting in his usual spot, enjoying the sun. Alexander, seeing his humble state, asked if Diogenes wanted anything. Diogenes replied, "Yes, I want you to not block my sun." Diogenes was openly against every rich man and politician of his time. There's a famous story where Alexander found Diogenes lying on a pile of bones and asked what he was looking for. Diogenes replied, "Alexander's father's bone," but he could not distinguish it from those of the slaves. Ouch, right? Diogenes' message to a world obsessed with material success was clear. Slow down, look around, and be thankful for the simple things. While we may not live as Diogenes did, and we certainly don't have to, his life serves as a powerful reminder that the less we crave, the freer and happier we become. Diogenes envisioned a perfect society where there is equity, where no one is superior to anyone else. He believed that the bones of the rich and poor look the same after death. So what's there to be proud of? This was a view I found quite compelling. According to him, human nature is pure and good at the start, but it becomes corrupted once people begin entering the marketplace. Greed, money, and social norms cloud their minds, leading them into the worst phase of their lives, where they think they are living authentically, but in reality, they are destroying themselves by accepting these norms. Diogenes called jobs and everything men did to earn status meaningless. Once, when the city was in panic, preparing for an approaching battle, Diogenes began rolling a large barrel, or sometimes said to be a jar or tub, up and down the streets. When questioned about why he was doing this bizarre act, Diogenes replied that he wanted to be seen doing something just like everyone else. This was his way of mocking the futile busyness and over-preparation of the citizens, pointing out the absurdity of panic and the tendency of people to act without reason when under pressure. He was a fan of nature and the dog. Why change anything? You can live according to nature. You don't need big homes. Live like a dog who can pee anywhere, have his sexual desires fulfilled anywhere, live in the streets. What's the big rush in doing anything to impress each other? Just impress nature. This was his motto for living. Diogenes challenged almost every societal norm of his time. People would throw bones at him, and in reply, he would urinate on them. In the winter, Diogenes would walk barefoot through the snow, and in the summer, he would roll in the scorching sand. He did this to toughen himself and build resilience against discomfort. One of his disciples once asked, "Aren't you taking this too far?" Diogenes replied, "Certainly, I go to extremes, just like a choir master who must sing louder than the rest so they can hit the right note." Diogenes praised God for being free of any desires, and he believed that men nearest to God should live in the same way, free from the pursuit of worldly pleasures. Diogenes spent his entire life negating almost every philosopher's perspective, including that of Epictetus and the most prominent philosopher of his time, Plato. Plato often avoided facing Diogenes due to his relentless trolling. In one famous incident, Plato was praised for his definition of human beings as being like chickens. As usual, Diogenes walked up holding a chicken and declared, "Behold, I brought you a man." Plato once referred to Diogenes as Socrates gone mad, because while he admired Diogenes' intellect, he believed his way of life was mad. Apart from Plato, Diogenes' ideas were in opposition to most Stoic philosophers like Epictetus, who believed in being thankful for basic necessities. Diogenes, however, argued that you don't need basic necessities at all. One bright sunny day, Diogenes was seen walking through the crowded streets of Athens, a lantern held high before him, peering around as if searching for something. The scene baffled those around him. People stared in confusion, some making gestures of perplexity, while children, unaware of his philosophical significance, mocked and ridiculed him. Why would a man need a lantern in broad daylight? What could he possibly be searching for? As Diogenes continued his search through the bustling city streets, a young man, curious about this strange sight, approached him and asked with folded hands, "Why would you carry a lantern in such bright sunlight?" Diogenes, looking at him with a gaze that combined both seriousness and melancholy, responded, "Can't you see? I'm searching." "Searching for what?" asked the young man. "Don't you understand?" Diogenes replied, "I am searching for an honest man. Alas, I don't see a single one in sight." The young man, not fully understanding the weight of Diogenes' words, pointed out the crowd of people around him. "But there are so many people walking up and down this busy street. How can you not see them?" Diogenes, without hesitation, answered, "These are not humans. If they were, they would be civilized. These are merely two-legged animals." Through this stark observation, Diogenes didn't just critique those around him. He questioned the very foundation of what it meant to be human. "What is the point of all this?" he asked. "In Athens, where there are so many wise and learned people, is there any evidence of steadfast virtues? Are there individuals here who truly embody the values of civilization, or are they merely driven by their base desires? Diogenes' search for an honest man was more than a simple quest for truth. It was a quest for the essence of what it means to be truly human. In a world that often prioritizes material gain and personal satisfaction, he sought a person who lived with integrity, reason, and compassion. Someone who could rise above the basic instincts of hunger, sleep, and reproduction to embrace a higher form of humanity. His lantern, in this sense, was symbolic. It wasn't just about illuminating the physical darkness, but shining a light on the moral and ethical shortcomings of society. In a broader sense, Diogenes' actions force us to reflect on our own lives. In modern times, we are also surrounded by distractions, driven by the demands of our careers, social expectations, and personal desires. It is easy to lose sight of what truly defines us as human beings: the capacity to reason, to empathize with others, and to uphold the virtues of honesty, integrity, and compassion. Diogenes, in his quest, challenges us to examine our own society and ourselves. He reminds us to ask if we are living as civilized individuals, or if, like those in Athens, we are merely going through the motions of life, driven by impulses rather than by reason and virtue. Diogenes' frustration with his society was not just a critique of the people he encountered, but a deeper call for self-examination. His words echo through history, asking us whether we, too, are living lives of genuine humanity or simply following the base patterns of existence. His search for an honest man becomes a metaphor for the human search for authenticity and moral clarity in a world that often seems dominated by hypocrisy and self-interest. As we go about our daily lives, navigating through the complexities of modern society, Diogenes' quest offers a valuable lesson. It challenges us to look beyond the surface and question whether we are living in alignment with the highest values of humanity. Are we striving to cultivate reason, integrity, and compassion, or are we merely following the crowd, like those two-legged animals in Athens, driven by shallow desires? Irrespective of his ridiculous lifestyle and occasional bullying moments, Diogenes delivered a powerful message too. Why clutter your life with possessions? No one owns you. Embrace simplicity. Live like a dog, free and unburdened. Question everything. Don't blindly follow societal norms. Seek truth, not popularity. Remember, the greatest luxury is freedom from desire. Let go of the need to impress others. Be content with what you have. In the end, we are all dust. Don't let material possessions distract you from what truly matters. There are multiple sayings about the death of the Cynic philosopher, but the most interesting one is that Diogenes intentionally stopped his breath, thinking, "Why have the luxury of breathing?" He advised his followers to throw his body to the animals so they could eat him, and thus he would return to the soil. In this way, he believed he could pay back to nature.